Hey, good morning. So today for my post, I'm going to show you a video format of expenses, pregnancy data, and calving data, some grazing data that I have taken in from old Excel files and converted them into an Airtable base, and then created an Airtable interface that shows visually via charts and pivot tables and stuff what that data looks like. So Airtable is really cool and um, really outperforms Excel in so many ways. But one of those ways is these interfaces. So you see, you're looking at here on the screen is an Airtable interface, and it is a great way to bring in data from certain tables. And a table is essentially a database, and format that data so you can see it visually. So here on the left-hand side, we have a menu, and then this is our interface here. And so now I have this set up as expenses, production summaries, and then preg check and calving data. So what these used to look like is this is like an NCBA red book, which is basically a little red book that a rancher carries in their front pocket. They write down data and then they go home and input the data into these spreadsheets. So you can see it has an overview, information table, gestation table. So it's really helpful, but you can see that none of these sheets down here are truly linked to each other. There's no like relation to other data. So it's not a relational database, it's a spreadsheet. And in order to relate the data to one another, you have to do a bunch of manually connecting and writing a bunch of different formulas and stuff. And then once those formulas are made, you have to be super careful not to break them. So you got to protect cell ranges and whatever, and give people different permissions. It's kind of a nightmare. The other one, this preg test data here, you can see. I'll show you in a second, but this one has a ton of hidden rows and cells and stuff like that. But all of these has manually been created and duplicated multiple times. So the workflow that goes into this is it's hours and hours upon work. So what I've done is taken some live data from a large cow-calf operation in north central Montana and then simulated some data to replicate it. So the data you see here is not the actual data from the ranch. It's fictitious, but I had ChatGPT reformat it and kind of closely align it. So if you do see numbers that are off, just know that this is fake data. And I quickly reproduced it for the sake of developing this dashboard. But now I'm going to get into what's going on here. So you can see at the top here, we have all of the expenses to date, $1.8 million. And if I click this arrow, I can see every single expense that goes into this. And these expenses are entered through a very, very simple form that I'll show you right here. So it has a date, an amount, an expense category that you assign it to, a description. So you give a brief description of what the expense is about, a vendor. So we have a vendor list that we can select from, which livestock class is going to be allocated for. So if I'm buying feed specifically for older cows, I would allocate that to the raised cows 3. So raised cows 3 just means cows that are 3 years old and older. And then a cost center attribution. So is this a direct cost, labor and management, interest, machinery and equipment, whatever, and then you just submit it, and that goes right into all of these expenses. So you can see these expenses that have been entered here: a date, an amount, a category, a vendor, and the livestock class. And if I actually want to drill down more, I can click on it and I can see everything here. So Western Feed Mills 52624. If I want, I can reassign the category. I can change the amount. I can change the date. I can change the description. I can actually change the vendor. So if I don't think that's correct, and that should go to Cenex, then I reassign that. And if it's so it's for the raised cows 3, and then for hay. So if some of these categories don't totally make sense, it's just because it's random data that's been fictitiously generated. Um, but moving on, now you can see expenses per livestock class. So I can see everything that has been attributed to the raised cows 2, all the expenses in here, and I can filter and sort these expenses as well. Then I can actually just click this pie graph here, or this donut chart, and go through each of the livestock categories that we have on the ranch. So we have raised heifers, here's horses, raised replacement heifers, that whatever livestock class you have on the ranch, you can assign an expense to. So then moving on, we have total expenses by category. So here I'm going to click custom hire. Now I see every expense for custom hire, and I can do the same, just drill down. What I should mention up here is if I want to see expenses on the entire dashboard that are only related to cows 3, I can come here to these filters at the top, and this shows me the only data that I'm seeing now is related to cows 3. And if I want to drill down further, direct costs. So you can see that direct costs to the 3-year-old and older cows was $98,000 for the year 2024. If I want to change that to the 2-year-olds, I can see only the 2-year-olds, and so forth. So I'm going to reset that. Then we have vendor information. These are just people that you buy from. So when you have to do billing, we have all that information in there, their name, their billing address, etc. So you can easily send bills. And then this is broken down into categories. So feed and mineral suppliers, if I click on that, I can see all of the expenses for feed and mineral. And then I can see all of the expenses related to ADM animal nutrition. And then I can even click in further and adjust as necessary. So moving on, we're going to go over here to the left-hand column, and I'm going to go to my production summary. And we can see here that it just gives us a high-level view of what's going on. So average first heifer conception rate. We got our 2-year-olds, our older cows. We can see an average total calves branded, average total calves wean, and then over a 10 years period, I think it's from 2017 to 2024, so whatever that is, the average wean weight is 89.2%. Now you can see it on a bar chart here. You can see first half. I mean, you can view things pretty much any which way you want. This chart here is first calf heifer conception rate. And then this graph here is average weight of steers versus heifers. So the steer is on the right, heifers are on the left. The heifer calves are this light blue line, so you can see the average weight has been a little more consistent than the steer calves. Moving on, I'm going to go to preg check. So now what this used to look like is this right here. We had about, 10 different sheets, and they all had to be duplicated, and then different formulas, manually updated and corrected. So now, it's got a set of instructions with a summary table, but now this is the summary table right here. We can see total head exposed, total head bred, and then the average age of the animals. Right here, we can see conception rates. So 89.3, and then you can drill in to all of the animals, and you collect this data during preg check. So all these ones that are bred. And then here it says color, but this is actually breed type. So red Angus cross, black Angus cross. And then we can go through what were bred late, bred cull, open, or all records. And then you can actually just work through data by clicking on these donut charts too. Here you can see average disposition. So you can give a disposition during preg check. If they're kind of snorty, give them a 1. If they're great and docile, you give them a 5. But you can see the correlation that the bred cows have a higher disposition rate than the open cows. So the average disposition of open cattle is 1.48, where the average disposition of bred cattle is 4.6. Now we can see preg status by age, another pivot table here. So we can see all these tags. So 1 blue, that would be 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3, etc. And then you can see bred late, open, sums, and you can have an even drill down. So this older animal that was 15, I can expand that data. So I would know now that I need to cull all these animals. And if I want, I can just look in and see, don't have a lot of information that I've added there. I'm going to go back to the dashboard, So you can see disposition by breed type, which breed types have the highest disposition, which breed types have the lowest. And what else do we have here? So then we have calving data. So average birth weight, average wean weight, total mortality for the year was 62 deaths. Then we have a trend of birth weights over time. That's just 1 year, so that's pretty flat. Distribution of calving categories. So this one is no assistance, and this is everything that calved without assistance. Assisted easy. So this is actually the animal. So 008 is the ID tag, and then 524 is the date that they were preg checked or calved. And then just a bunch of other stuff. So calf mortality. So we see that all these animals, I think 17, so 27% of the deaths were due to cold stress. 9 records. This is birth related. I don't even want to pronounce that. So then we can see gender distribution. So it's about 50-50, which is typical. And then you can see bull calf and heifer calf, what their calving ease was on a pivot table. And finally, I'm just going to show you a grazing plan. So, typically if you do a grazing plan, you put it in Excel. It's kind of clunky, hard to update. But this one shows actually plan to actual. And the way you can actually manipulate this is you can just drag these dates, and it's as simple as that, as like moving and planning your grazing. You can view this in a list view. So you can see everything that's yellow is planned, everything is green is actual, move in dates, move out dates. And you can see that there's a lot of numbers going in here. Don't disregard that. It's fake, but I just wanted to show you how these grazing plans look. So I'm going to sort by actual planned. Just going back to the expense dashboard, that's it in a nutshell about the power of Airtable over Excel. If you were to try to build this in Excel, it would take you months and months to do, and then it would just probably break in an instant the second you switch to formula around or whatever. So I hope you enjoyed what you're seeing here. And, if you want something similar to this, just reach out, and we can help you out, help you get something built for this. Thanks.